And there are plenty of comics that panic when they hear that. I feel tired. I feel like I should be going to sleep. And then as soon as I lay down, then my brain will start thinking about a movie that I watched or a TV show. And then I'll be wide awake thinking, how did I get to this? Why? Why, brain? Stop. And one of the women came up to me and the host and said, this is my first time leaving the house since my husband passed away.
Oh.
She goes, this was great. This is the first time I've laughed in over a month. And I was like, wow, you were asking about success. That was success right there. So I think that's it. Just not that I want people's husbands to pass away and then make them laugh, but I want.
Hello and welcome to another Cosmic Chats. We have the wonderful Kominos-Smith, who is a stand-up comedian who travels all around the US. He is going to join us and tell us and get down deep on the path of being raised as a single child, having a philanthropic mother, saving the people of the world, and how he coped with switching from religion during his life and his spiritual awakening late at night, talking to himself. All right, well, let's get to the first question, the warm-up question before we get to the meat of the video.
Yes.
How would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never eaten one?
I would describe a banana as sweet and tropical, I suppose. Warm. Is warm a taste?
I don't know. I don't think so, but if it is to you, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Okay, so how was your first perception change as a child?
I think as a child, you probably always look at your parents as kind of being perfect and infallible and heroes and strong and all that. And I think when the first time my dad had to get knee surgery and then I had to kind of help take care of him, and that's weird. I'm the child here. You take care of me. I think I was about 9 years old, and then I was like, I had to help him grab stuff off of shelves and bring food to him. And, so that was like, wait a minute, you're not this all perfect, powerful, super creature that can just control and protect me from everything. So I don't know. I think that was probably the first time that I realized, oh, things are different than they seem.
And your household environment, were there two parents in the household?
Yes, both of my parents. My mom is a doctor. Back then was still a doctor, but she was a cardiologist working like insanely crazy hours. So she wasn't home much because she was always in the ER, saving people's lives, which I don't think I fully understood at the time. And my dad was the one who was usually picking me up from after school. And, so it was always my dad who was the one there. I was told by my mom that if I was crying and she would come to pick me up, I would say, no, I want daddy, which must have been painful for her. But yes, so in general, though, both parents there.
And did you have any siblings?
No, it is just me. I am an only child because I'm perfect.
Now, we're going to move on from that. Well, how was that growing up with your dad being more of the home figure when you were a child? Was it looked on as, oh, that's different, and he'd be there and the mums would be there?
I don't think so. I mean, I think everyone and all my friends, everybody were pretty, like, I hate to call that progressive because that's just the way it should be. Whoever could take care of the kids takes care of the kids. So, but everyone was pretty progressive. So there was never a weird feeling of like, why is it your dad dropping you off and not your mom dropping you off? So I never felt weird about that at all.
So you had this experience that the parents weren't who they were, which is quite often around the age of 10. One of my favorite films is about a boy, and that beautifully personifies that experience of realizing that adults are humans with faults, right? And they don't really have everything going on. So based on that awakening, did you change your behavior at all?
I mean, I don't know if I became a different person or changed. I think I was always kind of more aware of the world as a kid than a lot of other kids. I found that I had conversations more easily with adults than with other kids. So I think I was always kind of in that perception of, I think I cornered my dad once when I was a little kid when I was like 6 if Santa Claus was real. And I like wouldn't let him answer. I wouldn't just take like, sure, he's real. And I would, no, why? But why? How do we know? How do you know for sure? And it's funny because I'm half Greek and half Jewish. So I was being raised kind of neither. So we sort of like had a Christmas tree, but also didn't really go to church, but didn't go to synagogue, but I still got presents and was still told there was a Santa. So I don't know. I feel like I always kind of had that. I don't want to say I was mature. That sounds like I'm really pumping myself up too much, but I feel like I was a little more advanced mentally, not physically. I was always very small, but more advanced mentally thinking about it from that sense.
So, two things. Did you have a bar mitzvah?
Yes, I did. It was confusing. I started going to Hebrew school when I was in 4th grade, and I was a little behind, but I caught up and then had a bar mitzvah. My mom converted to Judaism, but not until I was a teenager. It was very weird. And then they took Christmas away. We stopped celebrating Christmas. It was a whole it's a weird thing.
Oh, well, there's a lot there to talk about.
Yeah.
So, you were raised pretty much nothing, and then did your mother become Jewish because you were going to have a bar mitzvah, or you ended up having a bar mitzvah because she became Jewish?
So it was a very specific reason. She said we were in Greece, I think when I was like 11 or 12, visiting some family. And the taxi driver, my mom speaks Greek fluently, and was talking to my mom and said something like, "Oh, what's your son's name?" And she said, "His name is Aaron." And then the taxi driver said in Greek, "Oh, είναι Εβραίος," like, "Oh, he's Jewish, huh?" That's weird. Like, he said something like negative about it. And my mom got so mad that there was a way someone could hurt her son that she couldn't be hurt the same way. And she said that was the first moment that she really felt like there was just something not right, that there was something wrong. And I think she never really felt fully connected to the Greek Orthodox Church from the time she was a little kid. So I just think, especially as I was going through all my bar mitzvah training and she was helping, and she always used to run Passover Seders with my dad's side of the family anyway, that she always just felt connected to Judaism. And it was kind of a natural thing that just sort of happened. And then she started doing the classes right after my bar mitzvah. So I think it was more, we'll say it was me. I was the reason that she switched. I sound so full of myself.
You were both studying at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much. We were kind of going on that journey together. And then she became super Jewish, and since then has moved away from it and is more Buddhist, if anything else.
So what about the Jewish mysticism?
She never really got into like all the Kabbalah and all that stuff. She never really did. I think because she more just got more into not straight cardiology, but more integrative cardiology later on, and holistic medicine and that kind of stuff, that she sort of just moved generally in that direction.
And your dad throughout this whole process was
He was just a project manager for AT&T, who was just a guy who grew up in an Orthodox synagogue in Brooklyn where no one could understand anything that was being said and everyone was just yelling in Hebrew. And he told me he'd be at synagogue and everyone's just yelling the different prayers, and every 20 minutes you'd hear the rabbi say, "Everybody page 37." And then that's how everyone knew where they were. And he said, I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I don't know how connected he felt to it. He just knew it was the right thing to do.
So they were on board with it. And what about yourself? After that experience, did you find yourself following that faith more?
I was up until my bar mitzvah. And then after my bar mitzvah, my rabbi really pushed me to go to confirmation and go to all the Hebrew high school stuff. And I was a little confused by that notion that didn't I just do all this studying to be super Jewish and become a man in the eyes of God and all that, that now I need to do more studying to confirm what I thought I just confirmed. So I was very, I guess, thrown off, and I kind of got frustrated with it. I did it for about a year or two when I was in high school. I did a little bit of going to more classes and stuff. And now I've kind of just, I feel almost no connection to religion whatsoever. And culturally, I feel I'm very Jewish. I think it's very important to have Passover Seders and do some prayers here and there. But spiritually, yeah, no, I don't feel that there's anything there.
And what sort of spiritual philosophy do you find you follow now?
Humanism, is that a real thing? Is that
I think we're all human.
We're all humans and we're all good people, and I think we all naturally take care of each other. I was reading I forgot which famous anthropologist said she figured out that humanity was different from animals from the first time they discovered in a grave, not that someone had lived, 30, 40 years, whatever, but that there was like someone who had died who had a broken bone that had healed. And the idea was that like if your leg had been broken and you were an animal, that's it. Someone else would have eaten you and that would have been it. But that humans would actually take care of each other to the point where that bone could heal to then live even longer. And just I think that's what I believe in. We're humans, we take care of each other.
Now, taking care of your mother clearly had a strong passion, almost a worldly global purpose that it sounds like sometimes it overrode the family unit's needs. Did you ever feel a little secondary?
I mean, I'm sure as a little kid, you don't fully get it. Like I don't remember I kind of remember saying this when I was in like kindergarten or first grade when I'd be on the playground and an ambulance would go by. I would say to my friends, well, I guess mommy won't be home for dinner tonight, which I'm sure would just destroy her if she had heard me say that directly to her. I mean, we've talked about it plenty of times since then. And like, I don't think I ever felt, I mean, as a little kid, I definitely wish she was there more, but growing up and looking back, I totally get it. And, you can't like be a part-time doctor. You kind of need to be fully immersed in it or else you're not a great doctor, and what kind of doctor is going to turn away seeing patients at night up 6 o'clock, time to check out, got to go home. No, if you're on call, you're on call and that's it. So I think like, yes, it would have been nice if she had a more regular job with regular hours, but at the same time, it's what she loved and what she wants to do. So it's what she had to do. I get it.
Was that the message that you felt that you got from that, or is that only more recent that you felt that way?
I think I understood that from pretty early on that she was doing what she had to do. I mean, it's the same. I do stand-up comedy and I know the hours are terrible and the timing is terrible. And I'm going to get asked to do a show at 6 p.m. when my wife and I are about to sit down and have an awesome dinner and planned out a great evening. That's suddenly when a show I wanted to do for a year suddenly says, hey, we just had somebody drop out. Can you be here in an hour? And then I've got to screw over this awesome dinner we're about to have. I mean, I think I've always kind of understood that if you have that kind of passion, unfortunately, these things collide and overlap in sometimes not great ways.
And with your own family unit, do you feel that your wife really understood that element, that you're following your passion, and that means at times that shall I say it, the Disney lie, the one and only you are everything, is not really true?
I think it's still true. I think it's still, you're the most important thing in my life and I love you. And if I could, we'd spend every moment together. I mean, we just spent a year and a half together every day with COVID being at home. So, and it was great. And it was like, she's a teacher and she just started going back to school this week with students and I already miss her. Like so it's definitely, I think maybe at the very beginning, she didn't fully get how comedy works with scheduling. And I don't think even I fully got how comedy works with scheduling. And I don't think anyone really knows how something like stand-up comedy works because there's no HR department that you can talk to and say, hey, am I doing the right shows? Am I performing in the right venues? That it doesn't exist. So everyone is still discovering and still figuring out what the right thing is. And really the only thing that's right is what's right for you. And I think we have a much better understanding now. And we have a shared Google Calendar, and that really shared Google Calendars really kind of fix everything. And this is way we can plan. Do you go to marriage counseling? No, we just have a shared Google calendar. That's it.
Well, there's always the other answer. There's a t-shirt that says, I don't need Google. My wife is always right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for us, we always just look at it as we're both always right. And we're always on that same page.
Or
but
Google.
I could be that I could go with that hacky husband angle. Yes, dear.
Yes, dear. Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that with comedy. You sounds like you have also helped navigate your own philosophy in life and your own way in life with comedy and where you fit in comedy. And you are a clean comic, which basically means you have more opportunities to work, especially in the United States. But drunk people will always laugh at dirty jokes. So was there a decision for you to become a clean comic, or was that some part of you that naturally was led in that direction?
I mean, I think it's both and neither. That's not an answer, but that is my answer. It was more just that in general, as a person, I'm pretty dirty. I mean, my dad's from Brooklyn, my mom's from Jersey City. Like my
Are you
mom
talking about
curses
hygiene?
more. No, we're hygiene. I'm super clean. Don't worry. Shower all the time. You can't smell me through the internet.
Oh,
Um,
stop it. You don't know. I'm a meditation teacher.
Google's working on that. They're figuring it out, a way to do that. No, like I curse all the time in real life. I mean, I don't know how I've gone this long and haven't cursed with you, but somehow I have. It's magical. No, I think on stage, no one has ever watched a show with a clean comic and said, wow, I wish he was a little dirtier. You know, no one's ever said that. You've seen a comic be really dirty and say, hey, he was funny, but did he need to drop so many F bombs? Did he really need to, you know? So I think for me, I always was myself on stage, which involves some cursing. I never taught, there's two ways to consider a comic to be dirty: the actual words they use and then the topics that they talk about. In general, I don't talk about dirty topics, and I never really did super gross topics. If I did, I was talking about them from more of just a, hey, this is a thing that exists and it's totally okay to talk about something like that. Not I'm going to talk about it just to get people to go, whoa, whoa, ew. Like I'm not, that I never did. But about 5, 6 years ago, I started running a show in a coffee shop with my friend, and my friend had started the show before, and it was a clean show. That was kind of his angle, was he wanted it to be a clean show because he wanted comics to be able to work on their 5, 6 minute late night TV set if they had an audition coming up. You know, it's hard if someone's like, yeah, so, you know, F this and F that, and I'm going to shove it up right in the, you know, and then you go up and you say, so my family's weird. You know, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to follow that when you're trying to work on a real joke and real material. So that was the angle for that show, was to be clean. So naturally, I just kind of kept my act clean and kept my jokes clean from that. And I'll still, if I'm doing a late night show somewhere, I may curse once or twice. It may happen, you know, it's natural. And there it fits and it makes sense. No one would see me curse and go, whoa, that guy's a dirty comic. But what it's helped me to do now is I travel and do a lot of shows at colleges. So ironically, a lot of Baptist colleges have hired me to perform. I guess they want to see what a Jew looks like. Here I am. And
Short.
yeah, short, furry. I don't know. They, so they will ask me, they say, hey, you know, we're a Catholic school. Can you do an hour, but can you do an hour clean? Or we're a Baptist school, or we're a very religious Jewish organization. Can you do our Hillel show, but can you keep it clean? And for me, I say, yeah, no problem. You know, and there are plenty of comics that panic when they hear that and they think, clean? Well, how am I going to go more than 10 minutes without cursing?
Would
Like,
you say, though, that if you can't go more than 10 minutes without cursing, and the curse word is the punchline for the joke, that it really required an up leveling of your skills?
I mean, sure, I'll say yes. I think other comics may disagree, but yeah, I think it does take a little more skill. I think if the only thing that's getting the laugh is the curse, then that probably is not even a joke to begin with. So I wouldn't even say that's up leveling. I would just say that's someone who's probably not even a real comic, even though they may be successful and getting paid and traveling. You know, I would argue that if that's the only reason that someone's laughing, you're not very funny to begin with. I don't think there are any comedians that is the only way they get the laugh. I think there are a lot of comedians that go from being kind of funny to getting bigger laughs because they really just drive it home with tons of cursing and being full with it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the cursing is almost never necessary.
And so, actually, a really good question, and I lost it.
Sorry, I talk so much. I'm sorry.
Uh,
Is it behind the teddy bear?
the success that you mentioned, from a more spiritual point of view, or when one is in the entertainment business, there is what I call the selling third dimensional offering of what will happen if you go into the entertainment business, or the possibility of what can happen. And that is very much sold on big house, lots of cars, the old aesthetic, right? These old ideas. Hence, there are ideas of what the man is supposed to achieve and look like, and also from a feminine point of view, which we are culturally ingrained with from parents to parents. And so no matter how much we enlighten or work on ourselves, it will come down lessened. And if there is a child one is raising, hopefully that's lessened. How have you distinguished what success is? And did you have a turning point where you had an awakening of finding out what success really is for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I had a specific moment that I realized what success is or what success isn't. I definitely think that when you first start in entertainment, acting, comedy, in anything, because I've seen it with friends that I have in acting, everyone knows I'm not going to be famous tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. I'm not going to be famous in a week. I'm not going to be famous in a month, or probably not even a year. But everyone has this kind of image of, 10 years from now, I am going to be so much better off than I am now. Whether if it just means financially stable or having a big house, having cars, having whatever, having a wife who's going to stay home and cook and clean, which I don't think I've ever had that thought or wanted that at all. But I think you just realize the more you learn about the industry, the more you realize you don't know about it, and the less in control you are of anything that happens in the industry. And you used to look at someone who's an actor doing a McDonald's commercial and you think, man, that guy's not doing very well, huh? He's doing freaking McDonald's commercials. Then you take enough improv classes and realize all these improv people are auditioning for commercials and they're making six figures from doing commercials. And you're like, wow, I wish I could be doing McDonald's commercials. And it just changes your perspective when you realize your goal is not to do McDonald's commercials, but your goal is to be able to financially support yourself, and doing McDonald's commercials lets you do that. So you can then pursue the stuff you really want to do. And I think, because I've been asked that kind of question, like, are you successful? Do you think you're successful? And I remember there was this big question and answer that one of the comedy clubs was having, and the owner was there with an agent and a few other people on a panel. And he said, someone said, how do I want to become famous? How do I become successful? And he was like, you got to know what you want. Do you want to be a writer for a sitcom? Do you want to be late night TV comic? Do you want to be a host? Do you want to be traveling the country, touring, headlining? Do you want to do that? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just want my income from comedy to match my expenses in life. Like that's the goal. Let me do that first. Then let me figure out where we go. There's so many routes, who knows? Am I successful now? I don't know. I quit my job in 2006. I used to be an architect full time. And at this point, we're 15 years later. I don't know if I'm successful. I make some money doing comedy, but is money the only thing that tells you if you're successful? Probably not.
But what is it for you?
Oh, what is it for me? What will that success look like? I don't know. I don't think I'm there. I don't think so. I don't know if I'll ever be there. I think anyone who truly is passionate about being creative is never going to feel finished, is never going to feel done, because if you feel done, then it means you have nothing left to do. So how can you be creative if you're finished? So for me, I think half of it is that financial aspect. I want to be able to feel comfortable and not feel like I have to go do a temp job and work for $8 an hour in a mailroom, pushing around boxes and unloading boxes on a cart, which I did one summer. That was fun. It was not fun. I think it's that. And I think for me, real success in comedy is just going to be getting to perform jokes to an audience that's excited to hear me, and getting to work on jokes and build material and build a solid set and get it some kind of semi-complete package of not just a quick 5-minute set with some setup, punchline, tagline, setup, punchline, tagline, but an actual kind of an arc, being able to build a 30, 40 hour long set, get that kind of packaged up, feeling like it's good, get that out there, work on another one. And it takes a lot of opportunities to perform to really just keep morphing that material and changing it and tweaking it and adding and taking away. So that would be my success, getting to having the situation where I can work as hard as I'd like to.
Mm. I mean, do you feel that you do that regularly for yourself each time you get up?
Oh yeah, every time I get up. I mean, the frustration with comedy now, especially these days, is getting enough stage time and performance time to actually work on your material. It's one thing to say, I want to work hard. I want to go out there and try new material and tweak these words and change that words. And some people, they tell the joke once and it worked. So they're just going to keep telling it that same way. Like, I want to do it. I want to work hard. I want to throw out a joke that doesn't work quite as well, or even a joke that does work well, but doesn't define who I am. I want to throw that out and figure it out. But you kind of need the time to work on it. It would be like saying, I want to be a bodybuilder, but you can only go to the gym once a month.
And
You
when
know,
you are fighting for stage time, how did you wrestle with that at the beginning?
oh, it sucks. I mean, it's so frustrating because you want to get up so badly. It's like wanting to be a bodybuilder, and every time you go to the gym, the door is locked, and you just can't get in, and you can't work out. I mean, at least with that, you can do push-ups on your own, you can do pull-ups on your own, but there's only so much telling a joke in front of a mirror will get you. You can say it over and over again. It's not until you have a real crowd there to get those real laughs, to get that real response. So it can get really frustrating. You have to go to open mics and you go to comedy shows and you hang out in the back with your friends and you just watch other comics and envy what they have and wish you could be on stage and think, oh, I would have done it differently than what he just said. Or she did, she's not handling the situation. I would have said it that way. And it can get really frustrating. So you have to just keep that positive attitude and know one day I'll get that stage time. One day I'll get up there.
And how did you keep that positive attitude?
Sometimes I didn't. I mean, sometimes you come home and you're frustrated. And, I even joke a little bit about there was one time where I actually like started thinking about I had spent hours waiting for a chance. And by the time I got to perform, all the audience had left and a bunch of food had come out and no one was paying attention. And all these comics were doing great. And I couldn't wait for my chance. And I finally got up and it was a terrible show. And then the subways were delayed and the subway smelled bad because it was late at night. And I got home and I was all frustrated and I actually started yelling, what am I doing? What does it all mean? What is it? And I was like yelling at myself, but then I overheard how ridiculous I sounded. I was like, what does it all mean? Who says that? How lame are you right now? Like I almost like I had an out of body experience watching myself complain about it, saying, what does it all mean? And I'm like, what are you? What is this, like some cheesy like Hallmark drama movie that I'm like yelling, what does it all mean? And I actually started laughing at myself for being so overly dramatic.
That is a moment where you actually got to witness yourself. So when we would say a phrase in the UK is beside myself with anger. And that's
Yeah.
what it's talking about. I am beside myself
Yeah.
with the anger. It's not me. And often being immersed in a culture with English language, where we say, I am hungry, I am thirsty, or I am brilliant, right? It's other languages, I have hunger, I
Mhm.
have thirst. And so naturally, there's going to be more egocentric, I just say consciousness, because we associate that's who we are simply by being trained, I am hungry. My body is hungry, right? I am more than that. So when you have that's awakening, really, what is it all about? What? This is insane. This is doing comedy, trying to entertain. And there was an awakening where you were able to separate yourself as the witness from what was really going on and adjust. That's actually a very powerful experience. So when you had that, did you
Mhm.
find, well, what did you find occurred?
I think it was more just I almost got embarrassed that I was getting so angry. I got embarrassed of myself, like by myself, even though I was by myself. It was very weird.
Embarrassed of yourself and no one else was there to watch it.
No,
The
it's almost
witness
like,
was like,
what? Look at this freaking loser! Like, but it was me. Like, I was the person. I, I don't know. I think it was just more of realizing, what, like, I chose to be there. I chose to do that show. That it is live comedy. Anything could happen. Like I think it was just knowing you can't control that stuff and you can't get frustrated at the thing that happened that you couldn't control in the first place. You're allowed to be frustrated at it, but at the same time, you got to kind of then rein it in and recognize, okay, that was that moment, and there will be another moment coming up.
right? Not taking it so seriously that you're not in control, right? Thinking I've got these jokes set up, or I know how to respond to this heckler, I've done this before, and then something sweeping in and shifting that everyone else had a great set, but I didn't. And, you know, at any time it can turn around, and anytime it can turn around.
Right. Yeah.
Now, with the work hours for comedy, they are, you know, comedy hours up late, early into the morning. How do you nowadays help yourself get rounded?
Mhm.
What's round? I'm trying to think why the brain. There's usually an association, even with my most random out there brain, that I can track why it went where it did. Right now, I'm not sure.
Well-rounded?
Why are you rounded? Yes, a well-rounded comic, maybe, but grounded. How do you be a well-rounded comic? By getting grounded. What do you do?
I think for me, I have to always wind down after a show. I can't come home and then just go right to bed. That just will never work. You've got that all that adrenaline of, I've got that fight or flight on stage the whole time. So I have to come home. I have to watch TV. I have to relax. I do a lot of stretching at night. I find that's my favorite time to do stretching because during the day, I like to jog a couple times a week. I think jogging is really important for me. Unfortunately, my knee hurts, but I'm going to get an MRI next week. So hopefully we'll figure that out. But I think jogging is really good for me to kind of relax and get my mind off. I take long showers. I know that's weird, but there's something about like, there's between like jogging, showers, and like driving on a highway that's straight late at night. There's something about that like meditative. I have something I'm semi focusing on, but don't really need to focus on that I can sort of like get my brain just in a different state. And the irony is when my brain goes to that place, I'll not realize it, but I'll just start performing my jokes. So like I'll be in the shower and then in the middle of like shampooing, like I'll just start telling a joke for one of my bits and come up with a brand new line that I never thought of. And it's like my brain is finally in that relaxed state to think of it that way. The irony is then that gets me more fired up because then I got to run out of the shower and write the joke down and I've got shampoo in my hair still. So it then does the opposite of calming me down, but that does calm. It's funny when I get calm is when I then start to think about jokes more, which then fires me back up. So sometimes it's self-defeating, but other times it's helpful.
There is actually a relationship with water. And if you look at most religious practices, there is the use of water going on the body, and showers, especially water coming over, it helps put the mind into a different state. And that's where the creative space is able to come up and out without any strain with it. You know, there are so many studies with meditation and how that allows the brain to go into that place, which is why people find that they have more creativity as a result of meditating. So yourself, have you found that it's difficult to sleep at night then after you do shows because the adrenals are up?
Oh yeah. No, I sleep pretty terribly in general. I've been trying to meditate. I've been trying to, get an app and do a 5-minute thing at night just to like 10 minutes just to sort of try to calm myself down. But it's so frustrating when I feel tired. I feel like I should be going to sleep. And then as soon as I lay down, then my brain wakes up because I don't have anything else to do. And it'll either be, it might not even be waking up thinking about, oh, I've got all these things to do. It's not that kind of classic, anxiety. It's more just my brain will start thinking about a movie that I watched or a TV show and start thinking about the characters. And hey, why didn't this character do that? And I have a stupid brain that just goes to so many places. And then before I know it, I'm, 18 steps away from what I had just thought of. And then I'll be wide awake thinking, how did I get to this? How did I end up thinking about Post-it notes? Not writing on a Post-it note, but the sticky. How do they get the sticky on a post? Like, why? Why, brain? Stop.
Well, that's actually the essence of the creative brain, is where it gets to move all around. And that's the natural charm of the mind. It's to go where it's charmed. So children have this in the rawest form that we can see. If they don't want to go somewhere, they are not charmed by it. And if we don't have a space regularly where we are allowing our mind to actually file and process what's been going on, when we hit the pillow, as it were, and close our eyes, that's what's going to occur. So when people are saying, oh, I can't sleep, I'm not sleeping well, what's really happening most of the time is they're spending so much time allowing the mind to process everything, because there's no activity that's being honored regularly to allow the mind to process. And one of my favorite studies with meditation was done where they literally put people under MRIs doing various practices. And there's either concentration technique or non-directive. That's very, very skeleton-based differences of meditation. And concentration is pretty much what everyone is doing on YouTube. The non-directive practices actually allow the mind to be in its natural state of wandering around. So when you put your head on the pillow, you're not in waking state, you're not in sleeping state, you're not in dreaming state, you're entering this other state of consciousness. And they found with this study that those that were doing concentration, of course, what lit up? The part of the brain that is concentrating, right? So there's a concentrated part of the brain that was lit up. That makes sense. What surprised people in the study was the non-directive practices lit up more of the brain, but it was lighting up areas with emotions being processed, thoughts being processed, and deep rest. So even though there were lots of thoughts going on and the mind was wandering around, the body was actually getting more deep rest than if you are concentrating on having deep rest. Now, we're dealing with Westerners who have very, very difficult lifestyles, and having more of a nocturnal lifestyle is going against the circadian rhythms naturally, so that's a little uphill as well. But a practice that gives more deep rest, and helps process that through, has, as a result, allowed people to not need as much sleep at night, because a lot of the time being horizontal was processing out all these thoughts and these emotions, which is why, as a result, a lot of people who are in the creative industry love meditation. And the word meditation can mean anything. It's sort of like a doctor saying, I need you to just be a bit more fit. Well, what are you talking about? Right. Walking 2 blocks with a Starbucks or running a marathon? It's sort of like such a broad range, and then there are all kinds of connotations that can come with it. And those of you who want to find out a little bit more, the ebook that we have, Vedic Meditation Stories, it's free if you have Amazon Unlimited right now. And it has stories from individuals who've learned the practice, who would not normally meditate. And yes, we've definitely got some comedians in there as well, talking about their true experience, and some of them so brutally honest about what is this airy fairy stuff I'm doing now, right? And how it actually changed their life and made a difference. And it's the only publication currently globally that has true stories from people about this practice that isn't edited. Their voice is not edited. It's very important that people feel what's coming through with that, and that's available for anyone to reach out and find out a little bit more about meditation. And so that will actually help people be more creative. Many people who are in the field of comedy, or just not even, simply meditating and allowing it to come out. And in addition, that experience that you have being in the shower, allowing the water to come over. Can't say how many times sets have been done in the shower. If only I could have recorded the way I said it then, right? So what do you hope to leave for the world after you pass on?
I mean, just laughter, happiness. I mean, just all that. I remember once I was doing a show and it was one of those like only 6 or 7 people in the audience. And we were like, do we really want to even do this show? It was like a 10 p.m. weeknight show. We were like, all right, let's just do it. And it was a fine show. We had fun. The crowd had a good time. And then after the show, there were these 3 older women in the audience. And one of the women came up to me and the host and said, thank you guys so much. This was a great show. This is my first time leaving the house since my husband passed away.
Oh.
She goes, this was great. This is the first time I've laughed in over a month. And I was like, okay, wow. Like That's what I want to do. I don't care about any of this other stuff. Like there, you were asking about success. That was success right there. So I think that's it. Just not that I want people's husbands to pass away and then make them laugh, but I want, I want people to hopefully forget about bad stuff for a little bit and feel positive and feel happy. And I hope it's the kind of thing where you can listen to a recording of mine or watch a video of mine or go to a show and see it for a second or third or fourth time and get even more out of it the second, third, and fourth time. That's what I hope.
And bring some joy into the world. So it's not that different
joy
from teaching meditation. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please put a comment, share. If you can, subscribe. It's helping the nonprofit that way. And if you want to find out about what is the nonprofit, you've got all the links down there in the description box. And if you have someone you think would be wonderful on the show, we're open to that. So with that, we want to thank Aaron so much for being here with us. And we'll see you on the next Cosmic Chat.